everyone. Welcome to another virtual pitch event. I'm so excited. I think this is our 10th event, Gigi. How many events have we done at this stage?
I think it might be 11. I have to check.
11. Wild. I can't believe it. As you can see, I'm not in my normal office setting. I am on the road today, but we must go on. The show must go on. And we have six amazing pitchers today. So we'll just do a little bit of intros as people continue to join us. As a reminder, please mute out. We will mute you as you come in. I'm going to do that now, actually. Mute all. Um, and this is super interactive. So make sure that you unmute, raise your hand, add notes in the chat. The purpose of this conversation is exactly that. It's a conversation to make sure that we can give these incredible founders the right feedback so they can raise a check in this room. We've had a lot of people write checks in the virtual pitch event, get the feedback they need to go out and raise from institutionals, and really just be the best version of themselves for the company that they're trying to grow. So I take this very seriously, although we are going to have a good time. So with that, we could not do this without our amazing supporters and sponsors. All of our board members, a lot of you are in the room, so thank you for your continued support. We're about to launch Fund 2, which is so exciting. I can't even believe it. We just did our big Fund 2 kickoff here in LA with the Citizens team, which was super fun at Yamashiro. So if you haven't seen those pictures and videos, that was a blast. And that's a great moment for me to kick it over to Michelle with Citizens, who is one of our main sponsors for the pitch events. Thanks, Michelle.
Thanks, Laurel. Thank you so much for having us. It's nice to see everyone. I'm Michelle Picarillo. I'm the Executive Market Director for Citizens Private Bank here in LA. My partner is Sarah Bravia. She's also on the Zoom today. And we just wanted to introduce ourselves, say hello, let you know we're here. If you need help with any banking services or have any questions about banking, we would love to help support you in the brand. So nice to meet everyone. And thank you so much for having us today.
Thanks so much for your continued support. And one of the reasons that Citizens came on to support us and the work that we do is their commitment to working with women business owners in particular and growing that market. So that's most of us in this room, which we love, and of course, our allies as well. I also want to thank my team, of course, over at Elevate. We could not do this without each and every one of you. And finally, the Punch Financial team. As you know, Frank Masternuzzi is my co-GP. I'm so lucky to have him as a partner here, and the Punch team is doing amazing outsourced CFO work. So we've got you covered from marketing to banking to finance to legal. We got you. Oh, and there he is. Of course, I just did the thank you to Frank, and he just joined. So, Frank, if you can hear me now, I was just doing the thank you to Punch. If you want to do a quick hello from the Punch team and on that side of the fabric fence, you can go ahead and unmute and say hi to everyone.
Talking to me?
Yeah, I'm talking to you. I was just saying thank you to all our sponsors, including Punch.
Yeah. We're thrilled to be here. Laurel and the team does a great job, and we're looking forward to the pitches. And we are excited to see what you guys have to offer.
Thanks, Frank, and thank you for being my partner in this. I could not do this without you and the other sponsors. So thank you again. Thank you to our board. I just saw a couple join, like Nisha and some of our amazing investors like Mark, et cetera. So we're so thrilled to have you. As a reminder to change your name so people know your name and your company so they can chat with you in the chat. Feel free to add your LinkedIn so you can connect in other ways. And here is the format for today's event, as always. So please change your Zoom name so everyone knows who you are and what company you represent. Use the chat to share your LinkedIn while you're here with us. And Gigi's going to add the feedback link. So we want to make sure that, again, we're either giving the founders live feedback in this room or giving them feedback behind the scenes through this feedback loop that we have created. So please make sure you do that. The more feedback, the better. And this is our lineup. We're so excited to have six incredible founders. I've known a few of them for quite some time. Please stick around because Ria at the very end is doing some amazing global impact work. And I know that the last spot is always tough. So make sure you stick with us. And with that, I am going to stop my share and kick it over to our first pitcher, which is Nicole. Nicole, I saw you joined us in the room with App Ease. Nicole, take it away. Oh, sorry. As a format, again, 10 minutes pitch, 10 minutes feedback. So that's the quick pace with which we do this. With that, Nicole, I'll pass it over to you.
Sounds good. I'm just pulling up my sharing. Can you hear me? All right.
You can.
Okay, give me just a second to get this into presentation mode.
You're good.
You can see it, okay?
Yep.
Okay, sounds good. And then last but not least, one more. Okay, sometimes the layout changes as I go. So if that happens, please let me know and I'll.
It's always hard to computer live with people watching,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Okay.
All right. We're
Perfect.
excited.
Thank you. Well, thank you for having me. Laurel, first of all, to you and the Fabric VC team, thanks for the opportunity to present to your community tonight, and more importantly, for bringing this community together to support underrepresented teams. My name is Nicole Telat, and I am the founder of Appies. At Appies, we provide real-time access to medical records for insurance underwriting and claims through our digital health data network. I was a financial advisor for 13 years, and during that time, I wrote a lot of life, disability, and long-term care insurance applications. Through my personal experience, I discovered that medical record retrieval was actually the operational bottleneck in underwriting, and 1 in 4 cases require medical records for decision making. It still regularly takes 30+ days to receive these record requests, and my longest personal case took 4 months to get records. I personally firmly believe that insurance should not be so hard, and that is why Appies exists. So this process today remains largely manual and messy, like my slide shows. There are multiple vendors involved, and fax, mail, and phone are still the primary methods of retrieval. Underwriting teams who are making these decisions, they spend significant time and money chasing down these paper records, and that they can take weeks to arrive, and then reviewing thousands of pages of faxes and PDF documents. These delays lead to higher costs, poor customer experience, and applicant attrition. It's really a lose, lose, lose for the consumer, the agent, and the carrier. And while we have seen significant adoption of EHRs over the last decade and legislation has favorably moved towards easier sharing of electronic records, we still live in an environment where access to these records is disparate and it's complex. And so while healthcare data infrastructure really has evolved, the infrastructure workflows for insurance have really only come into early adoption of some of these technologies. So Appies is built as an infrastructure layer to connect insurers to fragmented healthcare data. So Appies is a digital-first platform, and that allows our customers to search for digital record availability, retrieve records electronically when they are available, and then reduce reliance on the traditional manual paper-based workflows. So we build connectivity across multiple health data sources, and we maximize the retrieval to improve both the retrieval and the amount of coverage over time. So from our customers' perspective, we act as one single access layer to this fragmented data. And of course, this is all done compliantly with data privacy and security at the core. And as long as we have the raw data, we make better use of it by aggregating, deduplicating, summarizing hundreds to thousands of pages of a single document, and then servicing key data for rapid decision making, all while keeping the underwriter in the loop as the primary decision maker. Our customers experience an average of 3.5 days to retrieval instead of 30, stabilized pricing, fewer vendor relationships to navigate, and then 50% reduction in review timelines of the paper documents. traction wise, we have strong validation that this workflow matters, and our retrieval tool is already in market with early customer traction. One of our pilot customers converted to a contracted customer and changed their entire retrieval workflow to make sure that Appies is their first stop. Our retro study achieved meaningful hit rates and significant reduction in the retrieval time frames from the paper-based methods. And these demonstrate that we're not just a tool, but we're really set to become embedded into the underwriting workflows. And as our network to healthcare connections grows, our platform only becomes more valuable to our customers. So while we are initially focused on underwriting and bodily injury claims, this problem really extends across multiple layers of insurance, or all layers of insurance and beyond, with significant room for expansion into health insurance, analytics, and consumer access. So we all know that insurance and healthcare are massive industries. The TAM for just the record retrieval alone is 22 billion, with 500 million records exchanged annually. And this doesn't account for any of the future expansion areas that we are looking at on our roadmap. And with underwriting just being our single point of entry into a much larger healthcare data connectivity network, what our revenue model looks like, it is largely transaction-based with search and retrieval activity as the primary levers. We do have some onboarding and integration fees and add-on services for our analytics tools. A sum at 5% of the market share puts us at 1.1 billion, again, just for the retrieval tool. So projected revenue for us, we are targeting 1 million in annual contracted revenue by the end of 2026, with a goal of reaching 3 million by the end of 2027. We are doing this through a unique go-to-market approach where obviously carriers are our end goal of customer, but they have a very long sales cycle. 12 to 18 months is the standard time. And so we are actually shortening that sales cycle by approaching operators first and then partnerships second. So our last contract, we were able to go from introduction to contract within 3 months. So it drastically reduces the timeline for onboarding customers. And then the partnership model, that gives us access. So we're becoming ingrained in other products, and on those platforms, they already have established relationships with carriers. So with one integration, we could have access to 10, 30, 50, 100 different carriers within their platform. So it's a great approach for us. Competitively, we do have significant heavy hitting competition. And our biggest competitors have actually been acquired by larger organizations in the space. So the insurtech market is hot. Speed to market is crucial for us, and that is actually why we're fundraising right now. We do not compete, just to note, with companies like Health Gorilla or Particle Health, these integrator companies. Those are not our competition. All right, so our approach is different from our competitors. In the sense that this infrastructure layer, it connects underwriting workflows to fragmented healthcare ecosystems through a unified experience. And we differentiate on many things like pricing model. We are the only one with our pricing option in the market, low to no integration costs, speed to integration, including no integration needed if that is something the customer is looking for. The level of data access that we provide, and then we automate into manual retrieval if we do not have an EHR connection. So what further differentiates us is our founding team. We are operators. We both come from the space. I come from the life health side. Kylie comes from the P&C side. 13 years of financial services, working directly with the consumer. And then Kylie on the tech side is a two-time insurtech founder and deeply ingrained in all things insurtech. And then last but not least, transitioning to our fundraise. So we have raised 180,000 in pitches, accelerators, and then one safe. Today we are raising $1 million on a safe as well. We do have 300,000 soft circled on that raise. And what that is going to do is that it is really set to expand our health system network, because that builds trust, it builds value, and it builds revenue for us through expanding that network. And then customer acquisition, of course. Through that raise, we anticipate getting to 3 million in revenue, and then also expanding our team and compliance. So with that being said, we believe that this is the future of insurance. I am deeply committed to improving the insurance landscape and the ecosystem and making insurance easier. And Appies is building an infrastructure layer to connect the insurance carriers with the disparate health ecosystem. So I appreciate your time and I look forward to your feedback.
Perfect. Well done and perfectly on time. Thank you so much. Just a little bit of feedback from me first. Or questions, I guess. Can you speak a little bit to the name of the brand of the application?
Sure.
It doesn't really say what you do, and yeah.
Yeah, so I was very creative when I created it. And Appies is for applications, so insurance applications. So the tagline initially was bringing ease to applications, but we expanded quickly outside of insurance applications into claims as well. So it really doesn't fit, but the name has stuck.
Got it. Yeah, it didn't, you want to come away when you hear a brand pitch, you want to come away like the brand is this. And when I think about Appies as a name, it doesn't really click for me. I understand that this is kind of baked into the brand right now, but something to think about. I think if you want to be really competitive in this space, you want people to see the brand and know this is what you do. The other piece of that to me, what for me was, I wasn't sure at first if you were health tech or insure tech. So I think just leaning in on the insure tech piece front and center would be a lot more helpful, especially because the name is a little bit ambiguous. But you got there. You got there at the end. I think a lot of what you said at the end should have been kind of wrapped in the front of the conversation. I have a couple more comments, but I will pass it along to the team to provide feedback and questions first. And as always, Mark leading us off with questions.
I can slow down if you like.
No.
So a couple of things. Where does the TAM come from? And please connect that to, I guess, three things. Connect that to the competition, because first, I clearly see a need in the space. So I see a need. What I'm not clear on is how much competition and where you're going to actually, what you're really going to be different to get you the business instead of the tons of competition that's already there. So I don't really understand the distinction very well. I don't understand where the TAM's coming from very well, because it seems large for the niche you're in. And then I don't understand what operators are in this context.
Sure. Okay, operators as well. So as far as the TAM goes, there are 500 million records that are exchanged per year, period. And so for us, that was basically, we took our charge that we charge for the records, multiply it by the number of records exchanged, and that's where the TAM comes from our end. So, and then as far as the competition goes, we vary in several ways. One, we actually have an API that offers access to things that our competitors don't have. So some of our competitors, for example, are offering APIs to a PDF document, but that doesn't really improve the workflow from where it is today, because they're already getting faxes and PDFs. And so ours has access to the raw data so that they can put it into other ingestion systems, LLMs, predictive models that they're building in-house or already using in-house. And our data can be filtered through those workflows to make it easier for them across multiple fronts. So I'd say that's one of our biggest differentiators. Another, we are small and nimble. We can move rapidly where our competition is, several Titanic-sized companies. They move a little bit slower, and, the typical large versus small. But we also have a unique pricing model that our competitors don't offer, that we're the only one offering right now. And then as far as operators, so these are people who are in the position of actually writing insurance in some capacity. So it could be MGAs, TPAs, agents, people who are actually involved in the underwriting before it gets to underwriting, the application process before it gets to the underwriters. So we're going direct to the people who are first interacting with the customers before it ever gets to a carrier.
Thanks.
Thank you. I did raise my hand again because I had another question, but I'll wait for others if there are others.
I think just a comment on what you were talking about, and just a point to make the pitch stronger, because you talk about this unique pricing model, but in that pricing sheet, you had just like, price symbols. So I think it would be more impactful for you to actually show us what that differentiator is from a pricing perspective. I felt that way about a lot of the slides. I think it's visually very clean, but I almost felt like you could have added a bit more detail on most of the slides. Other than I liked slide 4 where you showed how messy this is. I thought that visual was really great. But like the perfect example is on the pricing model. Like this is the thing that you're now saying is our big differentiator. I don't know how that is. So if you could maybe double click on the pricing model, since that seems to be something that's really impactful to how you win in this space.
Sure. Are you wanting me to answer that?
Please.
Okay. So generally, the market right now is pricing per record. So what that means is if we go out and we search for records, if there's one record, you're usually seeing about $35 per record as a charge. However, we might come back with 3 records, and each of those 3 records has a charge. So our competitors, they charge per record, and you don't have a choice on the number of records that come back or how you're charged. It's $35 per record. For us, we have an all-inclusive rate. So if 3 records come back, you're paying the same amount as if 5 records come back. And we have the choice. So you can still do a per record, or you can do an all-inclusive. So you can do what they're used to, or you can do a flat rate all-inclusive, no matter how many records come back. And then we also have
how does that impact your margin? Because that would seem to, time to execute would be significantly higher on 5 records versus 1.
From an execution standpoint, it actually is no different. We go out and it searches and it pulls all of the records at once.
Okay, great. But yeah, definitely I would include more of that pricing detail on the slides moving forward. Mark, I'll kick it back to you. And please, anyone else, if you have questions provided in the link that Gigi just put in the chat, or if you're not comfortable, I can call them out if you want to just add them in the chat, or of course, raise your hand and get involved. Mark, back to you.
Thank you. So with all the data you're getting with these records, are you retaining that in your systems in any way in an anonymized manner? And do you have plans to leverage that plethora of data you'll collect over the next, let's say, 10 years, because data is king these days, especially in the medical space? So how will you monetize that?
Yes. So yes and yes. So the data is de-identified and then stored because, as you said, data is extremely valuable. And that was on our future roadmap slide where we had the health data analytics listed. Quite honestly, we have not even entered into that yet. We've had some very early conversations with what that data value could entail, how that could work from a partnership standpoint. It could be research, it could be working, something developed specifically for physicians, not something we would develop, but the data would be available to our partners who are developing other items like that. LLM training, all of that is all up for options for us, and we do plan to monetize it. I very candidly cannot tell you what that looks like right now, though.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. A couple more points of feedback on my end. Again, at the very end, like your closing 3 to 5 minutes were so strong. You buried the lead on the 1 million ARR that you're anticipating to hit at the end of the year. I think that that's a really important thing to say closer to the beginning. Frank, you unmuted. Were you going to say something similar?
That's fine. I was just preparing. Go ahead.
And then my next question was about, you talked about your sales cycle and how you've shortened it to 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
That was a one-off incident. How can you be sure that that's repeatable?
Yeah, so we're actually seeing it as a trend across all of the customers that we've signed so far because we're getting to the operators and the owners of the organizations right away. And instead of having to go through layers of bureaucracy, we have, one or two layers of decision makers that we're working with right away. So we've actually had success in all of our most recent contracts. Generally, 4 to 6 months is the timeline that we're seeing.
Got it. Frank, you have a question?
Yeah, thanks, Laurel. Nicole, I unfortunately have the experience as an auditor in the insurance industry and ran the largest life insurance brokerage as a client here in LA. And we work closely with Vouch and Broker and the punch capacity. I've seen all these. How are you going to bridge the gap? Because I get where you're wedging this. It makes sense. You're collecting the online app. But then when you have to remit it to some of these, depending on who the carrier is, it's still back to PDF. And so you're going to automate the front end, but the back end still gets translated old school, right? Because they're not opening up their systems. How are you going to bridge that gap? And are you going to only work with, let's say, the more modern open platform carriers, or are you going to still kind of do the back end depending on whatever carrier you're going to work with?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the good news is, for I guess those who don't know this space very well, the carriers are paying for this, whether they're requesting the document or not. So by us getting to the operators and having them run the requests, we're getting to them before it gets to the carrier. So we're not wedged in a carrier's preferred vendor. So that's really valuable to us. As far as how it gets shared, we do have the option available. We have an API. We can push it into the carriers if they want it. If they want it old school, I can't do much to help them. We would
Yeah,
love for
no, I
them to
mean,
not do that, but we do have an API available for them to integrate that into their system if they want to.
yeah, no, I've seen. I'm optimistic. I think it's a big problem, but not everyone's open to a solution. I think I'm so tired of getting the PDF back and say fill out the form again, and here's what you answered last year, and I'm like, okay, we went automated 1 year, and now we're back to old school the second, and so it's very frustrating. So I feel the pain. I think if you can solve for this, and I like that you've migrated over into the actual claim process too, because it's so confusing. So I like what you're trying to tackle. I'd love to dig a little deeper on how you're going to execute on that.
Agreed. We are out of time. Thank you for that question. There is another question from Paulina in the chat. Nicole, if you could address that after you're done. Thank you for going first.
Thank
It's
you.
always very challenging. My last note to you is on the traction page, put in more of your numbers. Like we really want to see like what has been done to date in terms of real traction. I know that's scary to do, but that's what we want to see as investors. So thank you so much for going first.
Thank you.
Next up is Tracy Parsons with Flockety.
Flockety.
Flockety. It's fun to say. I'll tell you that much.
It is very fun to say. I loved your question about Appy's name because I was like, oh, that's a fun thing to answer. So hi, everybody. Thank you so much for this opportunity. My name is Tracy Parsons and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Flockety. And we're bringing influencer marketing to recruiting. Our platform specializes in democratizing job discovery because we know job search is over. We're all about rebuilding broken trust, broadening a company's reach into untapped channels using internal and external influencers. And in my 20-year career, so I've been doing this for quite some time, I have watched us go from the proverbial war on talent and devolve into a wasteland of zero trust. Not a single person participating in this transaction right now trusts each other. Employers don't trust job seekers don't trust employers. And in the last 3 years, we've seen employers begin to drown in applications based on the job market, right? But at the same time, we're seeing their ROI shrink right before their eyes. The reality is that according to Gartner, just 11% of the entire workforce is actively looking for a job right now. But employers are spending 90% of their budget on that 11%. and getting the same people applying over and over again. And on the candidate side, trust in this process has plummeted to zero. And we're getting this data from social listening tools of the millions of online conversations that job seekers are burned out. They're tired of ghost jobs, immediate reactions, scam texts. We've all seen them, like the data grabs that they're experiencing. And the 89% of people who aren't looking but open, well, they're visiting the places where employers are not spending any of their money. They're scrolling social media. They're busy doing their jobs and they're hanging on for dear life. No one in this space trusts each other. And it's quickly becoming $1 billion problem. So sorry, let's pause Deepali. Sorry about that. Okay, so we're trying to rebuild trust through creators. You can hear Deepali talking there. We want employers to start going up funnel to stretch that diminishing return on investment and to borrow the trust of trusted voices where they're already spending their time. And when trust is at an all-time low, the solution is to put the jobs and employer brands in the hands of employees and external influencers. Put the jobs in the hands of people because people believe people, which is why influencer marketing and the creator economy continues to grow and scale. So Flockity is the platform that empowers trust in those employers. Now, since our launch, we have put our foot on the gas. We have served up jobs for over 27 customers, doubled our margins, and grown our creator community. Our creator community has more than 8.2 million in reach, which is already 30% of ZipRecruiter's monthly traffic. Our pipeline continues to scale and has grown over 400% since Q4. And we're accelerating faster than we ever expected because what we're doing is delivering more net new career site visitors than any other channel. We're working with some of the world's biggest brands already, Travel and Leisure, Ford, Boeing, Spectrum, and we're delivering great results. So in addition to that great top of the funnel traffic to the career site, the traffic is sticky. Our creators' audiences are staying on that career site 3 times longer than any other channel, and we're converting brilliantly. So the average job board is converting anywhere between 1% to 5%, and we're seeing conversions up to 12 to 15%. I just got data this morning from Wells Fargo that they're converting at 16% this month, and it's all levels of seniority. In 25, we booked 80K. We've already booked 90K this year with an incredibly growing pipeline. The creator economy is expected to surge to about $575 billion by 2030. Influencer marketing spend this year is projected to be $40 billion. Indeed alone booked $10 billion in 2025, and online recruitment hasn't evolved in decades. Our ICP is the 8,000 businesses who hire corporate talent and fear they can't compete with FANG. And a good chunk of every recruitment advertising budget should be going to awareness channels, which is where Flockity shines. And we see this as an opportunity to scale as the creator economy continues to scale. Our go-to-market strategy is through channel partner sales. Many of the world's biggest employers leverage their recruitment advertising agencies to manage this media spend. And these are already inked partnerships. So we have relationships with these organizations that give us access to 5,000 of our ICP. It's incredibly sticky. Like all the agencies love Flockity because they're always looking for new solutions to bring to their customer. And they've already told us this is creating a halo effect for them, meaning that we make them look modern and new, and then they make us look really trustworthy. And finally, this model is saving us on sales headcount because I have longstanding relationships with all of these firms based on my time in the industry and many of these organizations I've worked with in the past. We expect to hit 1.2 million in ARR by 2027, and then we want to get to 6 million the year after and get up to 20 million by 28. Our creator moat is deepening daily. The brands we are winning are showing lagging adopters what's possible. So when you have brands that appear to be very risk adverse, like Wells Fargo and Boeing, it's making it very easy for those laggards to come along for this ride. We've raised 300,000 to date and are looking to raise an additional 700K. We think that this is going to provide us with 24 months of runway to get us to 6 million ARR. These funds are going to support our transition from a CPC business model to a subscription business model. So the subscription business model is going to allow our customers to get more tools to activate our creator network, as well as their internal employee influencers and ambassadors, and getting more involved in UGC. So this raise allows us to get more from our tech, identify and onboard vetted creators, and grow that influencer community, and ultimately expand into the hourly space. I started in this industry back in the late 1900s by placing the first banner ad on the internet for recruiting. I've pushed companies into social recruiting on MySpace in 2005, and I'm not kidding. Tom was legitimately T-Mobile Careers' first friend. I've certified more than 1,000 recruitment marketing professionals, introduced the concept of CRM to recruiting. I know I am the person born to grow and scale and exit this specific business. I'd love to hear questions.
Thank you. Well done with minutes to spare. Super polished. I knew exactly what you did from the beginning. You know, when you said we know job search is over, I thought that was a really great kind of stake in the ground on why what you do matters and is important. And you're a storyteller. Like you're clearly very polished and have a lot of presence.
Thank you.
Slides were really polished as well. Any questions from the audience? Otherwise, I will get into my questions and kind of feedback. Any questions from you guys? You're usually so active. I'm so surprised. All right, Mark, I'm going to kick it over to you again.
So this is more feedback than questions.
Great.
I didn't understand most of what you said.
Okay.
So I don't know the acronyms. I'm not in the space. I really don't understand the product. So I don't have a lot of questions because it was too many acronyms and too many things that I don't understand and what the product does and how you do it.
I think that's a fair point. I mean, I am in this space, and there were certainly some acronyms that I was unaware of. So maybe just dumb it down a little bit for those of us.
You got it.
Because obviously, when you're pitching to an investor, if you make them feel dumb, they're not going to write the check, right? To Mark's
No.
point.
Right.
That said, being in the marketing space myself, I'm interested to understand why you're talking about it as influencer hiring versus like next gen social recruiting. Is that an industry standard term, or is this a term of art that you created?
No, so we've tested affiliate marketing. We've tested, so they already think social recruiting. They already understand this concept. What they don't understand is how influencer plays into that, right? So when they hear next generation anything, they tune out. And this is just through the years of experience that I've had. And when we talk about influencer, most of them get that because they're scrolling TikTok and Instagram themselves going, oh, that Halara jumpsuit would look cute on me. They know they're being influenced. So we've kind of made that really strong stake in the ground that this is influencer marketing for jobs, but it's a fantastic question. And a lot of them think about social recruiting as their own branded channels. And they can't seem to get past that a lot of times.
Yeah, I had a little bit of a kind of feeling on that as well because you're talking about your TAM as their influencer budget, but really that influencer budget is being used to drive consumption of the product, right? So how hard is it for you to get them to understand that this is part of that budget, or I'm not sure it should be part of that budget. I don't know. I was having a lot of questions around how you address the TAM.
Yeah, and it's a really difficult thing to address because we were the first of our kind. And I don't say that lightly. Like I know that there are competitors to us now. And there is no other, when we first started this, there was no other organization that was doing this. So we had to take what we understood from consumer marketing and apply that to the recruitment space, right? So we know that the consumer market space in creator, in influencer is this big. And we see this as nothing more than trickle down because we know that those, like L'Oreal's entire marketing budget is going to creator and influencer. And so we know that our buyer isn't the marketing team. Our buyer is the talent marketing team. And when they take this to the marketing team is like, oh yeah, we're doing everything in influencer. So it's making sure that we're speaking the same language between the consumer team and the talent marketing team.
Is it talent and HR? Is that also an overlap?
So recruitment marketing and employer brand sometimes sits in marketing, sometimes sits in HR. HR, if it sits in HR, it sits under talent acquisition.
Got it. Thank you. Great answer. Shane, you had a question?
Hey, Tracy. Hey, Laurel. Shane Wilson, Citi Capital. We're an early stage VC fund. I'm curious. We're just a couple revenue questions, and I just want to kind of back into some of your projections here, Tracy. So, where's revenue today?
Revenue today is 90,000 for this year.
90,000 for this year. When did you
Mhm.
start?
We started publicly in 2024.
2024, and then you had a $20 million projection. I believe
Yeah.
that was in a year.
It's 2 to 3 years from now. Yeah, we're looking at 28.
Okay, 2028. And how much are you
Mhm.
raising right now?
We're raising 1 million.
Raising $1 million. How does $1 million get me to 20 million in revenue?
Yep. So one of the things that we're going to be doing in this raise is converting from where we are as a cost per click model to a subscription model. We've expanded our product suite to not just be the idea of influencers sharing jobs on their public social profile, and expanded that to a proprietary link in bio solution that our buyers are licensing from us for their internal influencers. And we're going to a subscription model where they'll get X number of shares, X number of seats to the link in bio model, and X number of UGCs, which will drive up the amount of buy that these will have. So right now, our typical buy is $10,000 to get started, and that will expand in the subscription model that it will go to $5,000 to $15,000 a month. We have stress tested this with our current customers. They're absolutely on board, and this is
Are they
how we
paying
think we're
for
going
that
to get
yet?
there.
When
They're
you
not paying for that yet because we got to get the tech, like we've got to get to the point where our creators are creating inside the Flockity platform as opposed to creating organically in TikTok, LinkedIn, Instagram, Threads. So we've got to build the tech to support the subscription model.
And so we've got a tech build out, and your assumption is
Mhm.
that like if the tech gets built out, that just unlocks this kind of runaway growth.
It does. It does. And I do believe that we will have a significant, like, again, we did 80K in 2025. We're projecting to hit 600K this year based on known deals, commitments, verbals, all the the insertion orders that we're generating from our agency partners. We know that we're going to triple that the year after at minimum, because then we're going to get to that subscription model. So when the tech gets built out, it's going to happen.
Tracy, what's your year-to-date revenue?
90K.
90K on 2026. You've done 90K.
Yes. Hmm.
Okay. So let me just walk this back to you a little bit and like first kind of like some strong feedback, then I'll kind of do
Sure.
like how I interpret this, and then kind of an idea that may be something to explore. This kind of like long horizon of your revenue projections just really
Hmm.
kind of is the question of like what's actually going to happen here. Like
Yep.
a 3 year, going from where you are today to 3 years down the road with $20 million. That is a huge leap. And within your presentation, I'm not seeing the steps. And really,
Okay.
I'm going to underwrite against what happens at different gateways. So what would be
Hmm.
more effective is if you could talk to me about how we went from revenue from here in 2024, then here in 2025, then here in 26. This is what happens in 27, and this is what happens in 28. This
Got
kind of
it.
like gap without kind of like, what am I buying here?
Yep.
That's like a huge question mark that's going to get people to really dig into some things, and they're going to start noticing some stuff unravel.
Okay.
That just happened for me here, frankly, this
Okay.
kind of unraveling here. So like just going from like we're at 90K. So you said you're gonna go what, 600K or something in
That's the
2026?
goal. Hmm.
We're almost halfway through the year and you're at 90K, right? So
Hmm.
it's like I'm now putting doubt on a lot of projections here. And so
Okay.
this kind of like I get like pitch a big game and get people to buy a big game, but if you're not bringing big game in your numbers right now, it just sounds like words. And so like that's kind of, moving from the like hard feedback of like don't do the long projections, don't give me a projection without like clear checkpoints and building towards it. That's like you could take that one to the bank. The middle that I just gave you, like, hey, after kind of poking some holes in it here, there's some holes. Like that's kind of my evaluation as a VC. The last part is just like the suggestion. A subscription bot model is kind of out of date with respect to early stage companies, I think right now, things are really moving towards outcome-based models. This is something that actually like you could start to see some hockey stick growth like you're projecting. So I agree, cost per click is probably that's probably a 2015 model. I think subscriptions are a 2022 model. And I would advise you to kind of think more creatively on what that model could be, if you're really going to try and, kind of get to some of these aggressive growth targets that you're putting out there.
Excellent. Can I address a couple of those things? Okay. One of the reasons that we're projecting to get from where we are to 600 is the launch of our proprietary link in bio solution. That ups our average deal size from where we were in 2025 of 5,000. It ups our average deal size to 25,000. So it
Do you
five
have any
X.
$25,000 deals yet?
Yeah, we've closed two.
Okay, that's good.
The product launched in February. And we've got 16 deals in pipeline right now that are active. And these are conversations that have a demo. They've got pricing. They're slating it into their budgets. I love you for saying so much that cost per click was a 2015 model and subscriptions is a 2022 model, because the HR tech and TA tech industry is minimum 10 years behind everyone else. So yes, I totally agree with you. I want to be more creative on this, but I'm listening to what my market does. But great feedback. I do appreciate that.
Thanks, Tracy, for the response back. Shane, thank you for the great questions. I actually had that as a note too, that it was that 6x current year to date was aggressive. So I think wanting to see the how behind it, which I assume would be in a data room, and the same thing on that 2028 projection as well. Mark, I know that you have a question. If you want to put it in the chat, Tracy can answer that rather as the time is up and we need to stay on track. Tracy, thank you for showing up and showing out. We really, really appreciate it. As a reminder, Gigi's going to drop the link in again. So if you have additional feedback that you don't want to provide live here because you're shy, which is totally fine, just make sure that you do provide some feedback, because that's really what these founders are showing up to do. Okay, third up is Illa Marchetta with U4U Teen. Illa, did I pronounce that correctly?
Hi, it's actually Isla and Marquetta.
Marquetta. I just butchered it. I apologize.
That's okay. No problem. Thank you for having me. It's exciting to be here. Shane is not allowed to ask me any questions.
That is the opposite of where you want to be. You want to make sure that you're able to answer even the toughest questions.
I thought they were
very fair.
I set myself up on that one, didn't I?
Yeah, you did.
Okay, great. Well, I'll go ahead and get started. I know we have a time. So I'm going to start with a question. Which major demographic is experiencing the most severe mental health crisis? It's teen girls. And yet, teen girls today are responsible for delivering 100% of our future generation. We need solutions. Teen girls today are feeling anxious, lonely, and hopeless. They need solutions that are made for them, that don't make them feel like there's something wrong with them, and they need support before crisis arrives. U4U is a solution. We're the first social wellness platform custom built for adolescent girls. And as leaders across the nation within pediatric psychiatry have recognized, we deliver an ideal solution. Because we meet girls where they are in an accessible and engaging way, we help them find belonging, and we help them build skills that will foster wellness through adolescence and throughout their lifetime. The teen girl mental health crisis, it's costing stakeholders billions. They're ready to pay for U4U. We have proven concept in market. We have the earliest revenue through our subscription model, and we're preparing for a pre-seed raise. I'm Isla, the founder of U4U. I bring 25 years experience in business innovation for Microsoft, GE Health, Visa, and others. I built a $15 million business for Morgan Stanley in under 4 years. I hold an MBA from London Business School. I've spent more than 2 decades researching, testing what works for girls. I've taught girls firsthand as a professional ballet dancer. I have 8 years as Girl Scout troop leader, many years coaching girls basketball. And alongside that hands-on experience, I've dedicated years to studying the behavioral patterns, confidence barriers, and the environmental influences that are shaping girls' mental wellness and their development today. I now have 2 adolescent daughters of my own, and I feel fearful for their future. I'm building alongside a team that's pretty exceptional. My co-founder is a school psychologist with master's in education. Our product lead comes from ThreadUp and Groupon, and our advising CTO has scaled and exited. We have strategic and clinical advisors as well as a youth advisory board. U4U is clinical and evidence-based on the inside, but it's extremely fun and scalable on the outside. So how does it work? First, girls are placed into houses with girls their same age. They complete daily micro engagements that help them build healthy habits and skills. They do daily mood and sleep check-ins for regulation and healthy sleep habits. Each house has a house lead who's a trained college student who monitors the houses and connects with the girls. Girls have the option of a sister pen pal. Challenges, check-ins, and messages add up to points that they can cash in for prizes. U4U is social, it's gamified, and it's educational. It's built on an evidence-based engagement strategy and delivers 4 pillars holistic development, with each pillar focusing on a specific growth area: self, connection, culture, and environment. The app measures users' personal growth and wellness indicators, and healthcare enterprise partners appreciate that the app supports early identification of potential risk factors, and we're pioneering safety-first technology standards for teen digital health and teen communities in general. Our MVP met onboarding goals in a third the projected time, drove 4,000 engagements through challenges and check-ins in only about 2 months through a web app, and delivered measurable impact in just 6 minutes a day, and we are seeing that rate continue. We built out from our MVP, and the U4U app arrived in the App Store a couple of weeks ago. We've been very encouraged by early traction and user engagement. Something you might find compelling about our progress is that we've achieved everything, including the platform, community partnerships, early traction, with only about 50,000 in funding from strategic investing advisors. I'm proud of our high level of capability, efficiency, and our execution. And I'm very excited by what we can do with more. So our market. The global mental health market is projected to grow to 240 billion within the next couple of years. We see immediate opportunity with our launch demographic of teen girls to be the 11 million girls who went online to search for help with anxiety. In the near term, we believe we can reach 300,000 teen girls through school-based communities, ambassador networks, and organic peer growth. We sit in a white space as the first to design exclusively for girls and the first to combine behavior learning with community. Our business model is subscription-based, with B2C proving demand and enterprise partnerships to drive scale. We've seen a lot of early interest from enterprise partners. Initial conversations with organizations include Kaiser. There have been strong enthusiasm with our preventative recipe-based approach to adolescent wellness, and these organizations already invest in digital mental health solutions such as Calm.com for their members, reinforcing strong alignment with our model. The U4U app is currently free for girls as we focus on user acquisition, engagement, and community. Over time, we will introduce premium features to drive direct-to-consumer revenue. In parallel, we've launched an early parent subscription, $16 a month, $60 a year. Parents secure the app for their daughters with links to insights for them, as well as curated events for parents, events for girls, and events for both of them to join together. We've been piloting our go-to-market strategy through multiple channels and approaches. And during this phase, we've successfully captured, very low levels of revenue. We do consider ourselves pre-revenue. Those are validation that have validated our approach and have built a pipeline. We have letters of intent representing over 50,000 subscribers. We're setting the stage for future growth, obviously. U4U recently captured the Luminate Award from the reputable NAMI Association, National Association of Mental Illness, recognizing us for our transformative community impact potential. Our current business model projects approximately 17 million in potential revenue through early enterprise partnerships. This approach follows a proven model used by platforms such as I described, Duolingo and Calm, where consumer engagement is complemented by institutional distribution channels. So U4U is a massive opportunity to change the mental health trajectory for teen girls. We've gone about it in a creative and engaging way and an innovative way. And this is a global opportunity. The need is massive. We've proven our demand and the chance to change billions of lives. We are preparing to raise $1 million, and we would love to speak with aligned investors to join us in scaling. So thank you for your time and for your listening, and I would love questions.
Thanks so much. First, just a point of feedback. You had almost 3 minutes left at the end of that, and you went through the slides so fast. Like I didn't even get a chance to read a lot of them. So I would just say, and I am a fast talker as well. I would say put my New York on when I'm pitching, but I think that there's something to be said for slowing down and letting us actually consume the content that you've painstakingly put together on those slides. So I would just
Thank
say,
you.
like, calm it
Yes.
down. What is the reason that you have built this app? Is it because of your girls? Like, I feel like I was missing a storytelling piece of the why.
Yeah, I feel like I've had a calling to do this since I was a girl. When I was a teen, I had a friend who was unsupported, but extremely had so much potential. And I saw her through mental health challenges, not be able to fulfill her potential. Through all of my years coaching and teaching dance and working in those spaces with girls, I saw girls who struggled and they didn't need to. Ultimately, at a young age, I thought about the fact that I want to make a huge impact in the future. And I thought how I could do that on the largest scope. And I focused in real distinctly since those early years on teen girls, because if we empower a girl, we empower her to go on and lead in her community, lead at the highest level, and every issue in our globe could be impacted positively. So I have inspiration and stories from the mental health component as well as from the leadership and empowerment component, and passion for this space from so many angles.
I would just do like maybe 30, 60 seconds on that in the beginning, because I didn't get the leap from all this expertise and background that you had to building a platform like this.
Yeah.
Elisa, go for it. Alyssa, go for it. Sorry.
Hi, thank you for your presentation. I really had two questions that are kind of connected, which is something that was missing for me on the oversight side, which is an expense side as well. So I understand you're putting people into groups and that there's an older, I guess you said college age person who's kind of the house mother or whatever.
You got it.
So we know two things about online, that we know that it can be a huge connection point and really valuable, especially for people who feel as isolated. But we also know there's a lot of online misbehavior, and that in real life communing still matters. And so I was left wondering, what is the moderation besides a college age person per house? Like, what is the moderation plan, and what is the diagnostic plan, the escalation plan for when you see something that is going awry, either with an individual who's acting out in a certain way? And you mentioned risk. So what is the actual, like, how are you applying that into how you're running the business? But also just if you see, like, what if someone isn't accepted by the group? What if someone does, it reinforces what they may be experiencing in real life and it happens in the house? You can't control for everybody loving each other. And then do you have any plans to expand into experiential, taking it experiential off the app?
Great. Yeah, all fantastic questions. And I'm really excited by the first component. I feel we're pioneering what we can do in this youth space, and what we can do with online communities in space. One of our advisors has a background in Pinterest, and we had a pretty phenomenal meeting with one of the heads of trust and safety at Pinterest. And she actually was really impressed with how we've built and designed our program as a space to be able to keep girls not only safe, but also to facilitate a positive and healthy environment. So, and some of the things we do is how we set that up, how we let girls into a house, how we designate, how we have closed communities, how we have this real person oversight. So the individual who oversights has gone through multiple levels of training. Our current two house leads, both are studying psychology. So they both have been peer support, community peer support for the teen group over the past. And so we've tested it in the MVP, and we're testing it now live, launching live. We haven't seen, we will, but we haven't seen anything negative because the users know there's somebody there monitoring it. In terms of our flagging system, we have flagging within the app. We are looking, as a part of this next raise, we're excited to bring in AI tools to help flag alongside the actual human beings that are flagging. And we definitely have a multi-point program for flagging and escalation and so forth. You talked about expanding to in person. And so we do have online groups for girls. That is part of our premium offering. And so girls can meet online through specialty events in the future. And in the past, we have done large launch events in person for girls to come together in their community. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the question. Any other questions from the room? Any other questions from the room? You guys are quiet today. It's so unusual. Mark, go for it.
So thank you. It seems like a great space to be in terms of certainly a need in the market. I also appreciate the B2B2C approach. I've seen that in a number of ways with insurance companies, et cetera.
Yeah.
And with that, I'm still struggling to see how you're going to go from where you are to 17 million in 3 years. So can you tell me how?
Yes. No. There's another competitor, BME Health. They had a $178 million contract with the state of California for youth mental health. So there's tons of money out there, Mark. There's so much money for this issue, and we need to just capture it. Okay. So when there's such high costs, they're seeking solutions, and all of the solutions out there, I think, as someone mentioned earlier, they're following a traditional playbook. They're clinical, they're not fun, they're not engaging, they're not impacting. So we have seen, like I said, when Kaiser NorCal, who pays the subscription fee for every single one of their members to pay for to utilize calm.com, and when they're conversing with us and saying, we need so much in this space, this makes sense. Adolescent psychologist, head at Harvard and head of Mass General, was like, this is it. This is creating mood shifts. This is creating all the early indicators that we need. So there's a lot of money out there. There's a huge amount of need, and there's nobody else playing here.
I think Shane would probably challenge that, assuming that would be in your data room as well, but make sure that you are very clear on how you assume that really ramped rev, because it is aggressive as always.
Yeah. And we do have a really strong built out, I love Excel spreadsheets, one of the few people. We have done a lot of work on laying out our projections, and I'd be happy to go through that in detail with anybody.
Appreciate it. Rebecca, go for it.
Thank you. Great presentation. And I wanted to challenge you about whether there are other players out there. I've actually worked with another entity that's doing something similar, not necessarily only in teen health, but I would imagine there are many other apps out there that you might want to address, just so it doesn't sound like you haven't.
I would love to hear which organization that is.
Yes, I think it used to be Bloom for All, something like that. And one of the things that they found was that there was a lot of suspicion on the part of parents of their daughters using these apps.
Yeah.
So how will you address that?
Yeah, one of the ways is we're going to parents first. And there's, of course, this dynamic of teen girls don't want something recommended to them from their parents. So we're actually testing both of these at the same time. And interestingly enough, recently, we've had teen girls going to their parents and saying, hey, mom, you should do this. There's this event I want to do. It looks interesting. Check this out. So I think our youth advisory board has been really integral and interesting in helping us to do that, as well as we've been doing a lot of real purposeful market research as we've gone along. So regarding like parents and buying in, trust is exactly key to what you've said. And it's not a super simple story that we're telling. One thing we're doing is we're teaming up with some very reputable parent groups that are known for social media safety and known for social media awareness, that they're shooting those messages at parents. And so by aligning with these organizations and also through doing work with NAMI and other reputable organizations, we're looking to establish that trust with parents, which you're spot on is key.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks for that answer. In fact, to that point, we just did an investment in a company called Sage Haven that does that for kids and teens in the online space, like social media specifically. So remind us to connect you. There was a bunch of questions in the chat. I'm just going to pull the one from Amy out, and then if you could go in and answer those for the rest of the folks. Amy asked, teens are very fickle. How are you keeping them engaged long term? How are you keeping the platform sticky?
Such a good question, because really that is key. And it's also something I think that is a part of our competitive advantage, because we learned a lot through our MVP about that specifically. We made a lot of changes in our new version that's out in the App Store. We started with a web app, so there was no chance for doing notifications. So now we do notifications with a clever little motion to brighten their day, but also bring them in to do their couples of minutes per day on the app. With the house leads, the girls really, really value having this opportunity to connect with others, with a near peer, someone to mentor with and find belonging with. So there's multiple components. The fact is they've been flocking to social media, right? They're spending like 5 hours a day on social media. It's so toxic for them. This is why girls, and to the point that there's nothing else out there doing exactly what we're doing. I would love, please, anybody, email me. And the fact is there's room for many of us we need more of us to do this. But these young ladies need somewhere to connect online where they're not being targeted by predators, where they're not being delivered toxic content. And that's what's keeping them there, finding this place to belong, to connect, to be, and discovering who they are and what they want to be in the future in a safe way. So that's what's catching the girls there and keeping them the belonging in a positive way.
Thank you so much. It's a really impactful platform. Excited to see how you grow. Please answer the remaining questions in the chat when you get a moment. All right, Gigi, is this you sharing?
Yep.
Fantastic. So we'll just advance at your call. Are you guys ready?
We are ready.
Fantastic.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Imagine being financially responsible your whole life and still locked out of financial security. You work, you save, you send money home, but when it's time to acquire and build generational ownership, the message is clear. The financial systems weren't really built for you. Meet my great-grandparents, Woodrow and Jesse Ingram, who knew that door. They had everything it takes to build wealth and were denied the infrastructure to do that. From the United States, Kenya, and Rwanda, millions of families globally still do. I'm Sabrina Lamb, the co-founder and CEO of Wakiza, and for decades led World of Money, a global Motley Fool award-winning youth financial education nonprofit building financial capability for thousands of children and their families. And now we are building the door itself for adults.
Hi, and I'm Keith Willis, co-founder and CFO. I spent my career inside of Wall Street institutions that built that door. I joined Wakiza because I knew exactly what it would take to make this impactful work at scale.
Yeah, so people are already working hard. They're saving and sending money home. And the problem is that all of this effort does not convert into generational asset ownership. They experience barriers like language, economic status, citizenship, gender, culture, and mistrust that keep them outside the systems where money compounds into wealth. So families can be consumers for decades and still start from scratch, each generation passing down sacrifice and liabilities instead of assets. And that's why wealth and financial inclusion gaps have not closed, and why Block ownership is not just a moral issue, but a massive underserved market opportunity. 1.7 billion people already earning, already sending. Gigi, we're on slide 3. Already sending money and across borders, already financially disciplined in ways most platforms never designed for. 100 billion in remittances every year without an app telling anyone to do it, because that behavior, that culture behavior is already there. There's a 27-point gap in ownership deficit. Those in the United States and the African diaspora invest at a dramatically lower rates than the broader market, not because of capability, but because no platform was built to welcome them.
Workeza is the first platform built to turn that movement into ownership.
Yeah, so most platforms lead with transaction. They put the investment screen first, hope trust follows, and then Workeza inverts that deliberately. The user selects one of 10 languages that Workeza supports. Multilingual financial education follows. The funding step is designed around Amina, for example's actual options, and not assume that she already has a bank account. Her investment is the earned outcome of her relationship with Workeza, not the door she has to push through to get inside.
And this pathway is what other platforms actually miss.
Slide 5, Gigi, please. Our infrastructure is not a roadmap item. So we have the brokerage, the clearing, the payment partners assigned and operational. The foundational audience is not cold. And the third condition is the most important. Free trading has existed for over a decade, but the financial inclusion gap did not close. That is proof that access without language, respect, and culture does not work, and that category is still wide open for a platform built around all three. All three conditions exist right now, and that is why Workeza exists.
Here's what we built to meet that moment.
Slide 6. So you see those installs, 7,100, none came from paid acquisition. Every number was earned through word of mouth, and the fact that the word Workeza is the most popular word spoken in East Africa before a single dollar of scale capital is deployed. Thus, we own the trademark and the domain. And the funnel tells you where we are in the story. The top of it is working. The cumulative revenue to date represents the floor, and it's all to the moon from here. Workeza was selected from the top 1% of applicants in Black Ambition, and we are Techstars back. Plus, Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated and Bio represent a distribution flywheel that will provide access to 1 million people.
The $1 per month is intentional. Most people invest because it feels out of reach, not because they can't afford it. Once they're in, they're confident. Confidence grows, and so does their activity. We already have 22 schools giving new contracts. Cities and schools work on procurement cycles and predictable timelines. That pipeline actually scales. Payments come last, Q4 2026. By that point, our customers already trust Workeza. We're not starting a new relationship. We're deepening one we've already built.
So, please.
And then, as it relates to our forecast, years 1 and 2, consumer and institutional building together. Year 3 is when payments come online, all 3 engines moving at once. This is where the curve actually bends. Profitability by year 3, 155 million in year 5, $1 billion valuation is conservative success multiple for regulated fintech as it relates to recurring revenue across international markets. Workeza is positioned to be $1 billion company.
Right, and here's our roadmap.
As it relates to the roadmap, lane 1 is done. We built it. The Ask Workeza AI, the global financial news, proprietary multilingual financial education delivered. Live in Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, and the United States. Lane 2 expands the footprint. Additional countries, corridors, B2B, B2G, sales scaling, Spanish language support. This is where the platform grows beyond its founding markets. Lane 3 is where the payment business launches. Stablecoin remittances, international payment rails, community financial forums, all 3 engines running together. Lane 4 is what keeps people. Recurring loops, localized content, and rewards.
Yes, and now here is why Workeza wins. Workiza is distinguishable because we are not solving only one piece of the customer's financial life. Most platforms either help people invest, move money, or learn basic financial concepts. Workiza connects those pieces into one trusted journey. Our advantage is the combination: proprietary multilingual financial education, local funding payments, and $1 US investing access, and a community built around trust. That's the difference. So Workiza is not just a trading app or a money transfer app. Workiza is a trusted bridge from cultural respect to financial activity to asset ownership. So I built World of Money, the leading provider of youth financial education in the United States and 4 African countries, also contributed to the Ghanaian financial inclusion policy, and testified before Congress on the urgency of real financial inclusion.
My background has been primarily in financial services. I've been in the financial services industry over 20 years now. I've also founded a international data analytics firm. And I was actually introduced to Sabrina and met her with my wife through a contact that connected us to World of Money, where I actually enrolled my son.
Yes, and our advisors include Ambassador Harold Doley, the first African-American to purchase a seat on the New York Stock Exchange, and Raghu Iyer, who's a co-founder of the Singapore Mercantile Exchange.
So here's our ask.
We're raising on $1 million and welcome an investor partner to join us on this Workiza global impactful journey. The demand is already there. You saw the traction numbers, installs, revenue, 4 live markets, 0 ad spend. We're determined to convert that demand at scale. And that is what $1 million does to fund a position billion-dollar company.
Every dollar has a specific job. The output of this phrase is to position us so that we'll be in a position to actually receive a Series A, and we'll be ready to, for Series A within 18 months.
So for your family, your great-grandparents, and future descendants, and every family that was told the table was not set for them. I can see my great-grandparents, Woodrow and Jesse Ingram, smiling now. Workiza is for you. Together, let's turn on the economic lights for all. Thanks for listening.
Wow, incredibly powerful, even with the awkward slide progressions. But we did what we could. I really want to see it again with the align with the slides. But clearly, you guys are very polished. You've really built these kinds of platforms before. I think slide 12 was a great example of how you are actually going to prove your rev scale, because that $1 million raise unlocks that 100K, and you can see how it scales from there in a really meaningful way. And you addressed a lot of my, I mean, as the questions were coming up, you addressed all of them. I don't actually have very many. You addressed the name conversation. Your organic scale to date has been extremely impressive. I love the combination of language, culture, and fintech in one platform. I think the importance of that from a global scale, to your point, is absolutely critical. And that this really empowers all of us to ultimately have asset ownership. That's the goal here, right? This isn't just a bank account. This isn't just education. It's a combined use case for those who are unbanked or who have never been able to acquire assets before. So I think this is a fabulous platform, and thank you so much for the work that you're doing. Definitely interested in continuing the conversation with you all. Any questions from the rest of the group? Elisa, go for it.
Hi, thank you for your presentation. I am curious about 2 things. I guess the competitive landscape, even if no one's doing exactly what you're doing, there are other people working in this space in general, but also about the potential for partnership with NGO and other kinds of organizations that exist to try and work on economic opportunity and empowerment and access, especially in Africa, but also just in other parts of the world. Like, is there an opportunity that you're exploring or see as fruitful to help accelerate your progress into some countries?
Love the question. So we partnered with the ICRA Bilingual Academy in Dakar, Senegal. and looking for other partnerships in terms of an exit. We envision perhaps an acquisition or merger with for example, a payment company that are unicorns on the continent. And so, yes, it could be an educational provider. It could be another fintech that provides maybe savings and need the brokerage part and the educational part. But the language part is very, very key. Very, very crucial, because often, we're Americans and we speak English, but around the corner may be a community of people that at home they speak another language, and how they relate to money is different. I live in Manhattan. Around the corner from me is Little Senegal. You might think that you were in Dakar, Senegal by going on those blocks of businessmen and how they relate to money. One other thing, I was speaking with someone from Ethiopia. In her language, the Ahari culture, the ethnic group in Ethiopia, there's no such word for financial independence. It's financial community. And that's why the billions of dollars that are sent home every year, billions of dollars is part of that financial community culture. What we're encouraging our members to do is to layer on your own. Yes, take care of home and send money, help your brother or your sister for school fees, but your own. You deserve your own financial independence. And I know that it's not part of your language, you're from Ethiopia, but that should be part of yours, because if you save your money, and particularly if you believe you save your money and invest, you will save yourself.
Is there any relevant, what's the word I'm looking for? You know how we have put your own oxygen mask on first? That's a very American, but does the equivalent of that exist in some of these other?
It depends. There's 54 countries in Africa. You have to peel back the layers. That is in some cultures, your duty is not put the mask on first. It's to put others' mask on first. Yeah. And then one of my former students at World of Money, she's from Colombia, and she was very uncomfortable talking about building her own financial security. And when I spoke with her after class one day, she said in her family, women have zero agency when it comes to money in the family. Her mother his name is not on, for example, the apartment rent or bank accounts. So financial education is not a one-shot deal or one size fits all. It's definitely not a Western, approach, but understanding how each culture and then encouraging that independence is really key, because when we liberate ourselves financially, we also do so for our families and strengthen communities as well.
Thank you.
Amazing. Even a powerful answer. Rebecca, go for it.
Just really quickly, this is a great presentation. You described the problem so eloquently. It's a huge issue. I was just having a conversation with a classmate from Ghana who's sending all of her money home. And we just actually literally had the same conversation. My big question in your presentation, in your pitch, is how does it, showing how it actually works would be really helpful. I have a big question mark there. What's a scenario? If you could show the flow of money in a scenario, that would be super helpful for me to understand how it works. Thanks.
I do have a demo, but I don't know whether that's appropriate for here. Happy to send it to you, but if I can walk you through it verbally. You download the Wakeza app. People are finding the Wakeza app just very organically. And then the first financial behavior is to choose which of the 10 languages on the app that is your language. It could be English, but it could be Swahili. And so you choose that, and that's the language that you would navigate. So then you have access to the financial education, you have access to attend our live financial forums led by licensed financial experts, but also you begin your brokerage journey. So you must, because of regulators are, require it, and it's the right thing to do, is that you go through within the app, your KYC AML verification. Once that's done, we approve instantly your brokerage account. And then by providing your banking, and if you're in another country, You're funded, you fund your account, for example, that $1 a month, $1 per trade subscription is funded through however you choose your funding mechanism. For example, if you're in the United States, it could be your bank account. But if you're in Tanzania, it could be your mobile credits, but it's done through your local currency. And then you start, we provide the questions. We do not tell people you should invest in XYZ. That is unethical and it's just not the right thing to do. But we provide questions that everyone should ask themselves to choose which company that they should invest in long term. Most importantly, investing is not gambling. And it's not in and out. Oh my gosh, look at the headlines. We should, go crazy. No, do your research first and then stay with that company based upon the research that's important to you.
Rebecca, to that point, would you recommend that maybe we add a slide that shows maybe it's in the form of a flywheel, shows the journey?
From my perspective, yes, because I'm looking at this in relation to other startups that are in a different area of, fintech or financial education, other platforms, and I'm trying to figure out where you fit, where Wakiza fits within that. The story of why it's important is very clear, but just like very quickly, just understanding the mechanics. What else is it like? Are you trying to be Charles Schwab or what? Just that would be really helpful in a concise way. Thanks.
Sure, thank you, Rebecca. That was to Keith's point and your point, we could make it more, it's noticeable, but it was on slide 4. Oh, that's right. You didn't see slide 4. All right. All right, never mind.
We'll make sure we see it at some point. Yeah. Last question from Mark.
Thank you. So very interesting and thought-provoking. For all the things that I heard was very much B2C. I thought I saw on the slides some B2B. Can you please talk to the B2B?
Yes, so schools license our youth financial education curriculum where we provide professional development to teach teachers as well. And that is in English and in Spanish, and it's a turnkey solution. And what makes our curriculum unique is that the curriculum begins with a video from a child. For example, if it's a class on credit, then Rebecca will introduce that video, who's a real child, will introduce that subject and kind of co-partner with a teacher in the classroom. And that's what we license to schools. We have a contract, this is the second year, a renewed contract with 22 schools, serving 14,000 children, ages 7 to 18.
Incredible. Thank you so much. I have a lot of more questions. I will connect offline. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing. And next up, we have Laura Solomon with Hoopsie. Laura, are you in the room?
I am, yes. Hi, everyone.
Hey. All right, we can see you.
Can you see my screen okay?
Yep, you're good to go.
Perfect. Okay. Well, good evening, everyone. My name's Lara. I'm the founder of Hoopsie. So my Hoopsie journey started after I went through IVF in 2021, and I joined a lot of online fertility groups, and I kept seeing women posting up photos of their pregnancy tests, sometimes 5, 10, 15 tests at once. And I got why they wanted to do so many tests, but what really struck me was the amount of plastic. And for something that's used for 5 minutes, it just seemed madness. And the more I looked into it, I found out that actually there's over 30 billion diagnostic tests sold every year. And that's medical tests like pregnancy or COVID tests. That's veterinary testing, food testing like E. coli, and environmental testing like water and soil testing. And together, these create over 392 million pounds of plastic waste. This is the same weight as 398 Boeing 747s. It's huge. This plastic takes over 30 years to break down. It turns into nano and microplastics, then goes into the soil, into the water, into the air, and eventually into us, causing massive health problems, and particularly for women, because plastic's an endocrine disruptor, and so it affects your fertility. So our solution, and we've also found when we're looking at pregnancy tests, I found that women struggle to interpret the results of a test because they are anxious and stressed taking the test, and they have to read the lines. So for the guys in the room, it's 2 lines if you're pregnant, 1 line if you're not. But what you'll do is you'll spend a lot of time trying to move the test around and see what the light's doing, and is that really a faint line or is it not? And so people prefer to use the tests that give them the result in words. And clinicians struggle to read the test results because they don't do them very often. And if you're visually impaired, you just can't read the test results because you can't actually see what the results are showing. So our solution is a plastic-free pregnancy test. That's our first product in the range. It's made from paper, available in a strip. You dip it into urine, midstream test, you wee on it. And it's the same accuracy, the same sensitivity, and will be the same price as the current plastic tests in the market. We have 2 patents pending on the test. One is for the materials that we use. One is the materials and the shape of the midstream test. So you can see here the midstream test is the bigger one. It kind of looks like a spoon. And the idea is when you're doing a midstream test, you're trying to wee on something, you can't see what you're doing. So if you have something that's wider at the end, you wee on it, you're more likely to capture the urine, because I had a lot of people saying, it's not working, and they hadn't actually weed on it enough. We also have the other patent is for the glue that holds the test together, and the number of layers within the test, so the kind of the makeup of the test. And we have an app that accompanies the test for when we sell B2C, and that works by taking a photo of the test result and gives you the result in words. So it gives you that reassurance of a digital test, but without the cost and without the waste. So the team behind Hoopsy, myself, I'm a solo founder, full-time, twice exited, and I have an amazing team of advisors working across R&D, chemistry, FDA, regulatory, sales and marketing within diagnostics, hospital procurement, sustainability, and also just a general coach who is working across the business with me. The global market size for diagnostic tests is $63 billion. So that's the medical, environmental, food, and veterinary testing. And our service addressable market is the $10.5 billion pregnancy, ovulation, and COVID test market. This is growing at 5% year on year. And we anticipate our share of market to be 369 million, which is around 5% of the serviceable addressable market. We've already validated the product in the UK. In 2022, I launched a 99% plastic-free midstream pregnancy test, which I developed with a manufacturer in China. I basically contacted a number of manufacturers, and one came back and worked with me to reduce as much plastic as they could from the test. And we sold, over about 2.5-year period, sold 20,000 tests. We won 4 awards for the company. We featured in the media, excuse me, over 110 times. And we had numerous positive reviews from consumers. We're selling B2C, so direct to consumer through our website, but also through some retailers, including pharmacy and eco stores. The B2C market was challenging, and so it was good to get the experience and a lot of feedback from consumers that use the product. But ultimately, I realized after we'd sold through the stock that we had that to make a bigger impact in the world, I needed to sell B2B. But so far, we have raised $450,000 in equity funding, around $150,000 in grants, and about just over $10,000 through pitching competitions. So our US go-to-market strategy, the UK is currently parked and are focusing on the US market. So last year in April, I moved over to the US from the UK and did a healthcare accelerator in Portland and Maine, where I still am. And as part of that, I wanted to see what the appetite was in the US. I spoke to Northern Light and Maine Health, and they both said, well, if the product's the same, works the same, costs the same amount as the plastic one, yeah, we'll buy it. And I thought, wow, this is amazing. This is great. And I wasn't sure how focused on ESG US hospitals will be, but I've now realized that there's around 6,000 hospital systems in the US, and around a third of them have ESG policies. So they are actively looking for ways to reduce their carbon footprint. And what they like about our test is that it works exactly the same way as current tests. There's no changes to the way staff use it, but there's only ESG wins for them, and there's no change in the cost. I also spoke to Advocate Health, which are a big hospital system around Charlotte, and they're keen to take the product once we have it. And Planned Parenthood in New York have 10 clinics, and they want to take the product once we've launched. And for hospitals, it would be a strip test, the one you dip into the urine. Our second market would be private label through retailers such as CVS. So CVS currently sell around 4 million pregnancy tests a year under their own brand. And I've met with the head of sustainability there, and this is something that they're very focused on, in particularly because there's there's extended producer responsibility laws coming in, which means they will be responsible for disposal, the cost of disposal of any of the products that they sell under their own brand. And so it's much cheaper to pay for a disposal of a paper product than a plastic one. In terms of timeline, we're currently fundraising, and that's to basically do our scale up to manufacturing. We can then do our bench and clinical testing for the pregnancy test. Our FDA submission, it's a 510K, which is a class 2 device, which means we have a predicate. And then we can launch into hospitals. Once we have FDA approval, we can go and talk to CVS, and the plan with CVS is we have a pregnancy and an ovulation test. An ovulation test is a class 1 device, which means it's easier to get approval for and much quicker. The pregnancy test will take 3 to 6 months for approval. An ovulation test takes a week. And then we will launch into private label in March 2028. Also plan, once we have our first product out, to start exploring licensing opportunities in the other industries I talked about, so in the food and environmental testing, because the regulations are much lower there, and they're really, a lot of those people in that industry are looking for more sustainable options. In terms of financials, currently pre-revenue, and project that sales will reach just over $16 million in 2029. This is with our product at the same price as plastic tests. So depending whether it's a strip or a midstream, it will be around 50 cents or $2 per test. And we hit around 60% gross profit once we hit economies of scale, which will be in 2029, which is basically 1 million units. Currently raising $1.5 million, and this is to get us through to FDA approval. It gives us around 15 months runway. As I said, to do the scale up to manufacturing, our clinical and bench testing, which is the most expensive part, around $900,000. Our submission, the first 2 manufacturing runs, and then to actually promote it through events such as Health Connect, where you can connect with hospital procurement people. And the bonus at the moment, well, next year, the UK is accepting FDA as a way to enter the UK market. So we actually get 2 markets for the price of 1 with our FDA approval. And excitingly, last year, we were in the Bridget Jones movie. Unfortunately, Bridget didn't buy us, but we were there. And we were in a billboard in Times Square, which was very exciting. So I'd love you to help us accelerate the adoption of plastic-free diagnostic tests. And I look forward to your questions.
Thank you so much. Perfectly on time. Great presentation, much needed. I'm team no kids, but all my friends and family have gone through this experience. And I think it's a very interesting application. Mark, you have a first question?
Yeah, a couple of questions. Number 1, why did you park the UK and decide to come to the US? And number 2, you have 2 FDA submission dates in your timeline, one in March and one in August. And so talk to me about that and your expected timing for clearance, for FDA clearance versus submission.
Yeah, so I'll start with the FDA one. So the FDA submission in March is for the pregnancy test, which takes 3 to 6 months for approval. And the August one is for the ovulation test, which takes a week. And the UK market, basically, when I came to the US in April last year, I already was looking at switching to a B2B sales model. And I had started talking to NHS in the UK. I don't know if anyone here has dealt with the NHS, but they say allow 10 years to get into the NHS. It's a huge thing. You think it's one organisation, but it's really not. And I just found it was very, very challenging. I could see on all the people I spoke to were just like, this will take you years. And then I came here, met with these two hospitals, and immediately they went, I love it, let's buy it. And I just thought, well, the bigger opportunity, 40% of the market is in the US, just a much bigger opportunity. So it seemed more sensible to focus here, even though we didn't have approval at the time. And the other thing was the product I was selling in the UK, we developed with this manufacturer in China, but we didn't have any IP on it. And so it felt like the better opportunity was to develop our own product. And thirdly, when I was talking to people in Europe about our product, trying to get into Europe, they all said, we need it to be 100% plastic free. And I was like, but it's 99%. They were like, no, 100, come back when it's 100. So I was like, well, if we do the 100, we've then opens up the EU market at a later date because we will have that, what they're actually looking for.
Thank you so much. As you were talking about direct to consumer, I was thinking about the emissions and how you would offset that carbon footprint. Is the B2B model really in support of that? Can you talk a little, because like if you're shipping these one-off direct to consumer and you're supposed to be plastic free, the emissions offset on that is challenging.
So, well, first of all, we're going to manufacture in the US, so that reduces our emissions. We will sell, the majority of our sales will be to hospitals and clinics or to CVS, so it's bulk sales. We will do our own few sales, probably 5% of sales will be through our website direct to consumer. And that's really just because I want to keep that connection with the end consumer and because we get people coming to us every week asking to buy it. So at the moment, our product is around 79% reduction in emissions versus a plastic one. So obviously with shipping that will change. But I still think ultimately, if you're shipping a plastic one or ours, it's still a better option.
I would love to see, you talked about the roadmap past all the FDA approvals into other product extensions. I'd love to see that added into like maybe just a slightly longer roadmap because I think that extension is really, that growth lever is huge for you. So just a note on that one, but I thought it was a really interesting presentation. Any other questions in the room? I know we're coming up on the last one. Rebecca, go for it.
Just one quick bit of feedback, if it's okay, because I know the timeline was very hard to read on my screen. If there's some way you could deliver that, and also the class one, go slow when you're talking about the FDA approval and the class one and class two devices, because for some people, some investors are not as up to speed on that whole process. So the clearer you are on that, the more credibility you have, and really well done. Really well done.
Thank you, Rebecca. And yes, I know I speak fast and I was trying to speak slow, but it's still hard.
It's 10 minutes. I know it's very challenging. I thought you did a good job, but I agree. I think one of the impressive pieces was how clearly you knew the differential between the timing on one product versus the other in FDA approval. And I thought that was really impactful. And so you needed to double click on that just a little. And that I think slowing down would do that exactly.
Right.
We got a question. What's your competition look like right now? I think you addressed some of that. You did have a comp slide, but if you could speak a little bit more to that for Paulina.
Yeah, there's no one doing a sustainable test at the moment. There are cases for tests, as in like the plastic case that the midstream is in. There is a more sustainable version of that, but no one is doing 100% sustainable test or plastic-free test anywhere in the world that I know of.
It's incredible. I mean, I've been on the anti-microplastics journey for some time. I actually have a doctor I want to introduce you to, as well as a couple other venture funds that invest directly in this space. So I've got quite a few people to introduce you to. But I don't have any other questions. I think that was a great presentation. And if there are no others in the room, we'll move on to our last. Can't believe we're at the end already. Unbelievable. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
Really great job. And thank you for helping to protect our environments, our bodies. All of it is so important and impactful. So thank you. And speaking of impact, we're going to close on a really strong impact play As you all know, we believe strongly at Fabric that doing good and doing well do not need to be mutually exclusive. And Ria, that is really your model. So I will hand it over to you.
Thank you so much for all hanging in there. And all the pictures were amazing. And thank you so much for your time. My name's Ria Pullen, and I've spent both of my life on both sides of the camera, and both sides of the economic equation. I started as an actress and a model, so I understand the power of a story that makes people stop and pay attention. Then I spent years working in international development across East Africa, where I partnered with local filmmakers to document the real impact of the work being done on the ground, showing donors not just what their money funded, but the human lives it touched. And I kept watching the same problem repeat itself. Organizations doing extraordinary work, making legitimate claims about impact and ethics with no way to prove them credibly, and communities of artisans and makers creating beautiful things that the rest of the world never got to see. I did not set out to build a platform. I set out to fix something that bothered me deeply. And when I started building Align with Africa, I discovered the infrastructure to fix it didn't exist. So I built it. Let me share my screen. Okay. All right. The edit infrastructure is trace every thread, and we are changing the trajectory of human commerce. Right now, a consumer is standing in a grocery store or scrolling online and sees a label that says organic, ethically sourced, women owned, planet positive, and they have absolutely no way to know if any of it is true. And they're not wrong to be skeptical. More than 50% of sustainability claims lack adequate substantiation, and nearly 70% of consumers don't trust what brands tell them about their products. And regulators are starting to act. The EU's digital product passport mandate requires verifiable proof of claims for entire product categories by 2027. That deadline is not a trend, it's a countdown. The problem isn't that companies are lying. Most of them genuinely believe what they're saying. The problem is that the infrastructure to prove it has never existed. We are at a specific moment where three things are converging at once. Consumer trust is collapsing globally. Regulation is creating hard compliance deadlines. And there are millions of skilled filmmakers and content creators around the world who want their work to mean something beyond views and likes, who want to use their cameras to document something real and lasting. Those three things have never collided before, and the company that builds the infrastructure at that intersection becomes a standard everything else is measured against. So let me show you what we've built. This is a bag of organic almond flour, a grocery store product. When a customer scans the QR code on the packaging, this is what they see. A verified journey from the California almond orchards to their kitchen. Video at every step, location and timestamp on every piece of content, and certifications backed by actual documents, not just logos. And here's also a community feed of verified purchasers sharing what they made with it. Every single one confirmed by a purchase receipt. One QR code, three outputs from the same source. A consumer-facing story, compliance documentation, and authentic marketing content, no extra work for the brand. And on the brand side, a clean dashboard where every piece of verified content, every compliance record, and every customer interaction is organized and audit ready. No extra work, just proof. Now, let me show you the same infrastructure in a completely different context. This is Lillian. She makes dresses by hand at her stall in Makina Market in Kibera, Nairobi. When someone buys her everyday dress, they receive a passport that says, "Made for you by Lillian." They can watch her story and see exactly where and how their piece was made. And I actually took these videos in Nairobi while this dress was being made just for me, and followed the whole journey. And then also you can join a community of people around the world who chose the same item. And Lillian can see you back. She can respond. A woman in San Francisco posts a photo wearing the dress, and Lillian in Nairobi says, "Thank you." That's not a feature. This is a completely new relationship between a maker and the people who value her work. And, it doesn't stop at this transaction. I'm going to show you the impact section of the same passport. And every purchase for Align with Africa directs 20% to a community organization Lillian chose. And here's what makes it different than their giving model and how the infrastructure works for an NGO. The QR code stays alive. As funds accumulate and projects are fulfilled, this record updates in real time, showing exactly how the money was used and what it built. The person who bought a dress in San Francisco 6 months ago can come back and see the water project that got built or the cooperative initiatives that got funded. Their purchase didn't support a promise, they can watch it happen. And that's what a living record looks like, not a paragraph on a website, not an annual impact report, a QR code that tells the truth in real time. Two industries, one QR code, the same infrastructure underneath both. We are entering the digital product passport market, currently valued at $2 billion, growing at 25% annually with a regulatory mandate that makes adoption non-optional for any brand selling into Europe by 2027. And TET generates revenue three ways. First, subscription tiers from $49 a month for small makers up to $100K a year for enterprise clients. And that's our predictable recurring base. Second, a marketplace fee on every content job book through the platform. We don't produce the content, we connect vetted creators around the world to the brands that need them and take a platform fee. Third, over time, data licensing and regulatory intelligence builds on the only verified ground truth data set of ethical commerce that exists anywhere. But here's what makes the adoption curve realistic. Brands are already paying for storytelling, compliance documentation, community building, and marketing content separately. TET doesn't ask them to spend more, it asks them to consolidate what they're already spending into one platform that connects all of it and produces proof that none of their current vendors can give them. And for the ethical brands who have always done the right thing but never had the marketing budget to prove it, TET is a competitive weapon they could never afford. In year one, we're projecting 1.2 million in revenue from 745 customers. By year two, we're at $5 million on subscription and marketplace revenue alone. The 1.5 million we're raising today funds 18 to 20 months of runway, enough to ship the MVP, establish our first pilot partnerships, and reach the metrics that unlock a seed round. And we're not asking you to imagine whether this works. You kind of saw how it works. And Align with Africa, our flagship brand and first committed customer, launches with TET's full infrastructure from day one. Product passports, verified content, community feed, and impact tracking live across real products made by real artisans in Nairobi. And because I founded both companies, I have something most SaaS founders don't: direct real-time control over how the technology performs in a live deployment. I don't wait for customer feedback, I am the customer. Every gap TET fills, I discovered because Align needed it. Every feature that works, I know it works because I watched it work in the field. We already have a mailing list of over 1,500 consumers who signed up specifically for a brand built on verified ethical claims and human storytelling. When Align ships, they become the first people to scan, engage, and prove the consumer side of this model works. That's an immediate live deployment, a warm audience ready to engage, and a founding team that has spent years doing manually what TET now makes scalable. So I've spent my life thinking about one question: whose story gets told? And more importantly, who gets to decide? Because story isn't soft. Story is what moves people to act. It's what builds trust, drives purchases, and determines whose work gets seen and valued. I built TET because the infrastructure for telling the right stories verifiably at scale didn't exist. Anna Ismail is our technical partner, a serial entrepreneur and fintech founder with over 20 years of experience building data, AI, and machine learning products across 3 continents. She's founded and scaled technology companies to acquisition and brings the exact expertise TET needs. Mandy Ladd is our COO. She has spent her career as a senior analyst managing and allocating hundreds of millions of dollars in government contracts, ensuring resources reach the people who need them the most. So we're at the beginning of a fundamental shift in how commerce works. For the first time, consumers will have a real choice, not a choice between brands that claim to be ethical, but a choice based on what they can actually see. They can align their money with their values because the proof is right there, attached to the product, verifiable, human, and real. And that changes everything. It changes which brands win. It changes what companies have to do to compete. It changes the lives of the makers and communities who have always done the right thing, but never had a way to prove it. Trace Every Thread is the infrastructure that makes that choice possible. Not by asking companies to do more, by making proof the easiest thing they do. Every thread of the supply chain, every thread of the story, every thread of the impact, verified, human, and real. That is what it means to trace every thread, and we would love to have you join us.
Perfectly on time. I just have to say, because I've known you a little while now, your pitch from when we first met to this is so much better. I mean, it's like night and day. I'm so incredibly impressed with how far you've come with this platform. So really well done. I am a little biased, of course, because I'm a big fan of yours. Have a couple questions, but I'll kick it over to Mark first.
Thank you. Very good presentation. How do you validate? You said it's verified, but how is it really verified? Companies can make stories on anything, it doesn't make it real. We have different definitions around the globe and even in the US on things like organic or whatever, right? And so I understand there's some regulation coming, but I don't think it's coming here, or at least not fast enough. And so how are you doing the verification that people actually believe what they're seeing?
Yeah. So every piece of content, and honestly, this is really just doing it in the field. Up comes the metadata into a phone. Everything is captured on mobile. Every verification part of the process. So in there is the metadata of the timestamp, the location, all of that. And also, we would love to, what we want to do is work with regulatory bodies, whether it's certified organic, the EU, fair trade, to be able to build the product alongside those certifications and check marks that they have to have in order to put that little stamp on their packaging. And so that is how we're able to verify, is because it connects with what the certification that they're claiming, and also with photos and videos taken with mobile devices that have the metadata included on there. And especially when we are working with and connecting brands to vetted content creators, these will be third parties coming in to the companies in their supply chain. Say they're building in China and they wanted to talk to that factory who wants to use, no plastic. We can verify at every step that no plastic was used. And instead of her having to go all the way to China, we work with content creators in China who can go locally to the factories.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions in the room? We are going to cut this one a little short because I like to stay on time. But just a note, you were talking about the brand overall, and then you moved into using it as an acronym as TET, and we didn't know what that meant just yet.
Sorry.
So make sure you say that up front. I got it after you said it a few times, but at first I was like, "What? You're talking about TED Talks?" It was very confusing.
So sorry. Yes, I should have.
And then this is a double-sided marketplace, really, right? So the lift on that from a marketing and acquisition perspective is pretty challenging. Can you just speak to use of funds for that?
Use of funds, because it is a dual market when it comes to verification and also the content creator marketplace.
Yeah.
So the use of funds is really to build out the tech and the infrastructure for it, because the companies will be using the tech integrated and they can brand it to their own branding, just like Align with Africa and the flower company has their own. And so it would kind of not like be white labeled, but they would be using it to be able to show on their QR code. Every verification comes from the content creator place. So the brands actually pay, say, $150 for a content creator to come in for the day and actually shoot the shots of their things being made.
No, I get that. I think I'm talking more about customer acquisition on both sides of the fence. Like customers are actually going to buy the product, and then the actual the companies that are producing the product that need to prove with the platform that that's real. So there's just it's a high lift. It's a really heavy lift to get to that.
The companies would be the ethical brands and the NGOs. So those are our only really customers. And the content creator marketplace is what brings the assets that are needed to do the verifiable proof at scale.
Got it. And then we're running out of time, but you talked a lot about the 2027 deadline. That's the deadline for Europe. US doesn't really have that deadline, especially with this current administration. So I would just double click on what this means for us here in the US, since you're talking to US investors.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you. And I will delve more into that and spend more time on that as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I'm
Thank you
going
so
to
much.
share my screen so that you guys can see the next virtual pitch coming up. So please scan and sign up with us for August 19th. If you have any companies that you think would be aligned with our values as a fund and want to pitch, please make sure that they sign up as well. They're always picked at random, and it's not a guarantee of investment, of course, but we'd love to hear everyone's different message and approach to how they're making the world a better place through what they're building, as you all did today. So I'm so grateful to all of you that showed up. And together we're going to weave the fabric of the future. As I always wrap up every time we do a pitch, go forth, be fabulous, and make change possible. Thank you.